Hey, this is Comic Picks by the Glick.
Yeah, I'm your host, Jason Glick.
Hey, Jason, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, John. Yourself?
I'm doing great. This is the first time that we're actually putting a stream onto your YouTube channel, and we're also going to make it available, through your regular podcast for audio download. So this is pretty exciting stuff, man. This is good stuff.
Yeah, more than one source, living in the future.
Yep. So, what do you have on tap for us tonight?
Well, I guess it's an appropriately futuristic story, or it would like to think of itself as a futuristic story. And I'm talking about Dan Slott's run on Iron Man. Now, when he started on this series a couple of years back, this is after he'd wrapped up his decade-long run on Spider-Man, which had some highs, some lows, but was I really enjoyed once I got into it, like in over the course of the Superior Spider-Man portion of its run. It's basically like, it's like as a run where it took a lot of the familiar conventions of Spider-Man and just thought like, well, how can we do things differently? And I really enjoyed like Slott's work on this series in the sense that like it kind of established him as like someone who can like take a familiar character and look at him and then find a way to do things, in a different fashion. And so when he finally wrapped up his run, it's like a couple of years ago, and it was announced that he was going to work on both Iron Man and the Fantastic Four. I thought, well, yeah, I'm obviously going to start like buying like these volumes like on a more regular basis now. So flash forward to the present day, and well, I don't know. It's like I can't say that I've been as wowed by his work on either series as I have been on as I was on his during his Amazing Spider-Man run. And with Iron Man in particular, um, well, it's like I started like as time went on, it's like I still got this feeling that it's like, well, it's not really like offering a whole lot like due to the series, and in fact, a lot of it does feel kind of conventional. It's like and it's like I'm probably the only person who felt that because after like 5 volumes, Slott has now wrapped up his take on the Armored Avenger and is now focusing on Fantastic Four like full time. So, but like did something go wrong? Well, I don't know. It's like Slott had definitely had ideas for what he wanted to do with Iron Man, but I can't say that they were entirely it's like a full like pulled off like in a really satisfying way. Um, Rereading it though, I will admit that it's like one thing that struck me though is that he and his co-writers, Jeremy Whitley at first, then Jib Zub, and then his longtime amazing co-writer, Christos Gage, um, were con- were really committed to like throwing you like a thrill a minute version of the character. It's like in the sense like there was so like all sorts of action was happening at a really rapid clip, like over the course of the series, and that was evident from the start, where it's like in the first volume, Iron Man, self-made man, where it's like Tony working at Stark, like I'm setting up Stark Unlimited and getting one of his old like one of his old rivals, Andy Bang, to get him on board with this new startup, and I'm just like throwing him like at like a mile a minute like showcase of what's going on at this place, like from showcasing new places for robots. It's like especially the AIs like Yocosta, and also the it's like the it's like the scientist it's like who has turned himself into a cat, which is quite fun. And it's like and then Fing Fang Foom comes and attacks in the first issue. It's like it's a like I said, this it's something that like starts at like a mile a minute pace and then never lets up over the course of the first volume, and then the second, which dives into like the big showcase piece for Stark Unlimited, which is the Escape, basically a like a like a consumer grade VR um VR setup for everyone. And well, it's like wouldn't you know it that as soon as like Stark starts rolling this out, one of his people from his rogues gallery, the controller, start um starts messing with the people inside, and tries to like start siphoning their mind energy for his own benefit, and also just turning their fictional adventures loose in the real world. So basically, you got people like who are just like willing to shoot up everyone just for kicks, now doing it in the real world as well. But at the same time, though, Tony is also like set things up so that his the memory engrams of his parents have also found a way to live on in there, and well, his mother is like being a little bit more overbearing than you'd expect. I'm trying to like give what she believes is doing the right thing for her son, and it turns out to just be like trying to like draw him into a it's to a consequence for your life, and including one where he starts drinking again. Yes, that's right. Two volumes into like to Slott's run, and like we're already I'm hitting that like Tony Stark is hitting the bottle again, which it's like you kind of think like, okay, I realize this is the key part of his character, but could just wait just a little bit longer to try and pull that particular plot point in. But but even then, it's like it's still probably a bit more solid than compared to what Slott's main idea for the character is, because prior to this point, Tony had was dead. He'd been punched in the chest by Captain Marvel in Civil War II, and just like, but how death is in the Marvel universe. It's a revolving door. And in Tony's case, his body had been cloned and he had been dumped, and his mind had been re-downloaded into this body. But at the same time, though, well, Tony is concerned that, well, like if I'm like an artificial like personality living in an artificial body, am I it's like am I really human at all? Am I the real Tony Stark? Well, speaking as a biological simulation of Jason Glick, who's been living on in his biological body for like around 4 decades now, this is kind of dumb. It's like I mean, like the idea that Tony like is like feeling that, oh, I'm not quite Tony Stark, like like these things that I've been gone through just make me not me anymore. Well, it feels kind of silly because like it's basically like a storyline where the character doesn't quite believe in who they are, and we all know how that kind of storyline is going to end. It's going to basically end with them realizing that, oh wait, it's like, no, I really am the person I was all along. I just needed to believe in me. It's like I needed to have faith in myself. I needed to believe in the heart of the cards. You know how it is. And well, it's like as far as how that actually turned out, I'll get to it in a second. But the first two volumes did a good job of like giving us a lots of rapid fire action. It's like some interesting subplots in terms of it's like Machine Man's like fight for cybernetic rights, Jocasta's like drive to like find a way to like assimilate, or not really assimilate, but assimilate slash integrate with human life. And even though like there are some parts that were like really heavy-handed metaphors, because Slott is basically like I'm treating like machine rights as an analog for human rights. And it's if you think like, well, it's like are we like is there going to be a lot of like reinsertion of like famous human rights slogans in terms of machines? It's like if you're gonna like have a robot trip with a protest saying, "Yes, I do dream of electric sheep." Well, yes, that's exactly what you'd see here. It's pretty heavy-handed, and while the sentiment behind it is nice, it's like I said, the heavy-handedness does kind of provide a very like large distraction from the larger points that Slott is trying to make with this analog over the course of his run. But overall, it's like I mean, it's a lot of these stories like kind of play out like as you'd expect, and it's like and that's fine. I mean, it's solid superhero stuff, but it's not really kind of like exciting. It doesn't have like the same kind of like situations in where compared to like Slott's amazing Spider-Man run, where you just got the feeling like where he looked at like, oh, this is how like like Spider-Man story should go. What can I do to like flip it around? You never really got that sense that's what he was doing with It's like with Iron Man. Maybe he's too distracted in terms of working on Fantastic Four at the very same time. But this is the end result right here, and it's and like I said, it results in a series that's not bad, but never feels like as good as it's like as good as it could be, really. And that extends to the next volume, which was like a tie into War of the Realms, which only had like three proper issues of the series, two of which were written by Gail Simone, and she had the dragon Saudrang, who like thirsts for gold, like take on be lured to like the Marvel universe by Malekith. It's like, and he's going to take on Iron Man. It's like it's kind of a fluff storyline, but in terms of like watching Iron Man like fight a dragon, it's like it's still not bad. It's like in terms of like like tie-in, it's like event tie-in stories. It's pretty decent, and Paolo Villanelli draws the hell out of it. And then there's the one proper issue of the series that falls, which basically has Iron Man trying to wipe away his problems by it's like by deleting his memories of the last couple of weeks, and well, that doesn't go well because the Spy Master gets his hands on the data drive with Iron Man with his memories, and then all hell breaks loose. It's a good time. But one thing I haven't mentioned throughout all this is the fact that one of the is that Slott also does make good use of one of the characters that was introduced in Kieron Gillen's run, which was Arno Stark. Arno Stark is Tony's brother and the original Iron Man 2020. And it's like so it was interesting to see him try and reintegrate like the character into this series, but he's also done in a way in the sense that basically positions Arno as being the actual biological son of Howard and Maria Stark, whereas Tony was actually the adopted son of these two characters. So he's kind of like Tony's basically like more like Marvel's answer to Steve Jobs, like in that regard. Now, Arno was kind of shoved to the side during Bendis's run after Guylan introduced him, but but then but then Slott decided to pick him up, and well, like the vibes you got from the first two volumes were kind of sinister in the sense that Arno is just like going around the world trying to find out what he wants to do, but he's also just kind of like, but he's also like maybe a little resentful of what was done to him, and he wants to like try and prove that there's worth to him, that like he was that he was kept alive for a reason, that he triumphed over his disease for a reason. And well, it's like yet there's like lots of supervillainy vibes over these first couple of volumes, and extends into the fourth volume, which is the Ultron Agenda, where one of the big bads of Avengers villainy comes knocking. And yes, he's still merged with his creator Hank Pym, and well, but Ultron's also realized that, hey, you know what? Now I want everyone to be like me, and here, and so I want to. His big thing now is like he wants to like find a way to merge human and machine life. Starting with Jocasta. Well, actually starting with Wonder Man and the Vision, because they've most of their brains are kind of like based on the same, based come from the same source. So it's like it's kind of like it's a nightmare. It's like of like techno organic merging to the point where like Tony Stark gets merged as well, and he's got to find a way to deal with this. It's like, and overall, it's like it's a it's like it's a it's like it's a decent story, but at the same time, it's still like furthering that, trying to drive home the idea that Tony Stark believe that he's not, it's like a proper being, that he's not the real Tony Stark and all. It's like, and that core idea just, like I said, it doesn't get any traction here. Even if they Slott like and his artists, like from regular artist Valerio Schiti to like Francesco Mana and like the other artists working on here, it's like they do the best they can with it. But even if like the core idea is just like Iron Man and his supporting cast versus Ultron, and it still maintains that level of high energy and action that's been typical of the series to this point. it's still it's still like weighed down by this, like lack of confidence that's key to like Slott's, I mean, idea of like Iron Man, like of Tony Stark not believing that he's the real Tony Stark, and it's kind of frustrating, and it leads into a very predictable and downbeat finale where Tony like is where Tony's like lack of faith in his like own humanity is seized upon by his enemies to force him out at Stark Unlimited to have his assets seized by those at Banetronics, like by evil that's coming that's being run by his like evil rival Sunset Bane, who's working with his brother Arno in order to like seize in order to like take like just become like the number one like robotics like slash weapons manufacturer around. So that's kind of where we are like when it comes to this final storyline, Iron Man 2020. So it's so like yeah, you may remember that I mentioned that there's a story called Iron Man 2020 that was written back in the mid 80s, like in the sense that hey, this is like one of those far off eras that we'll never see. And well, here we are. And so you've got Arno Stark, who is the Iron Man, who is the Iron Man of that series, who is now the who's now the Iron Man in 2020, and it's his job to try and like save us all from this like extinction entity that he believes is coming to kill us all, which I believe is a dangling plot point from Kieran Gullen's run, but not quite as the series kind of actually points out. Now, I do want to digress a bit, talk about the fact that the making of this series was actually covered in one of the episodes of the Marvel 616 series on Disney Plus, which is basically a 8-part series so far about the creators behind like a lot of the stuff that like a lot of the Marvel material, like basically like the creators and the fans. I can just like the I said the creative impulses that kind of like make Marvel great. It's like, and I've heard good things about the series, but I made a specific effort to watch episode 7, which was called The Marvel Method, and it was specifically about Dan Slott's efforts to write the first issue of Iron Man 2020, which, as I looking at that episode, I can see that it was basically kind of intended as a like how is the sausage made to people who aren't too familiar with comic books, and look at like the things that can go wrong like in terms of making it, in the sense that like Slott talked about his struggles with writer's block for this for this episode, for this specific issue, and just how like time, how it starts with 12 weeks. The series starts with like 12 weeks to go to print, and and we and like we're introduced like Slott like talking about his problems with like his editor Tom Brevoort, and then his how he makes he's making the issue come together with artist Pete Woods, and just how as time gets tighter, well then you bring in like his regular co-writer Christos Gage to help dialogue the issue. And especially that Slott is one of the main guys one of the few guys working at Marvel today who believes in the Marvel method of script writing, which is basically he gives like a general description of the issue to the artist then illustrates it, and then the writer comes back and dialogues it all in. So now it's like I can understand like okay, this is kind of like how things work, and like everyone's creative process is different, and writer's block is no joke, and like be like seeing like Slott's struggles with like writing, it's like well, it's like I can understand that, just like the distractions, the feelings that like I don't have to do this right now. It's like there's other stuff I could like look at as well. It's like that kind of thing. I mean, it makes sense to me, but at the same time, like I understand there's a lot of blowback online for understanding, why does Slott, get this kind of like leeway? What kind of how does he get this kind of privilege? Like, why does like he get like another like creator to come in and dialogue his it's like his work when he can't hack the deadlines? So yeah, I get that. It's like it's like I can see the issues with it. I mean, I can't say like it kind of ruins my impression of him because it's like, hey, it's like everyone's different, but I can understand it's like why like people have like a definitely a negative impression of the writer. It's like like following this like this issue, starting this episode. As for the series itself, well, I want to say that I didn't buy the final volume. I uh I read it through Marvel Unlimited because it's like I said, I think that the series has been fine up to this point. I mean, it's like I said, it's got energy. It just doesn't have a lot of like surprise or innovation in the sense that like, hey, it's like a pretty perfectly standard Iron Man run it's told decently well, but no big surprises. And like the idea that, hey, oh, Tony Stark's lost everything, and now so he's got to deal with like his brother who has taken over his company. It's like, yeah, it's like this seems like pretty. It seems all pretty standard issue. As for as as for 2020 Iron Man 2020 itself, well, it starts off with Arno Stark visualizing the extinction entity threat that has come to that's coming for him, but he doesn't have time to like dwell on this nightmare. He's got to go out and be Iron Man because now he's running the God Killer armor that Tony Stark dreamt up in like in Volume 2, and like he's also like fighting against the robots who are like who are rebelling at every step because their cries for freedom and free rights, it's like haven't been recognized. And it's like an Aaron Stack, Machine Man. Well, he's running things. He's running things in part from the like from the background. And this first issue is basically there to set up all the like the big fight between the humans and the machines, including, and this is the big reveal from issue 1, that Tony Stark, now calling himself Mark 1, believes himself to be part firmly on the machine side because he's more of a artificial human than anything else. Which, yeah, you can imagine how I felt about that. And it's like, and for the most part, the majority of this like of this miniseries is given over to the fight between the machines and it's like and Arno Stark's plan. And Stark and Arno becomes like more and more like selfish, more means justify the ends. It's like as things go on, and since after a point he realizes that, oh no, it's like it was like trying to control the machines wasn't the right way to go for this. I need to control the humans in order to control the machines as well. And you can imagine how that goes. I mean, like to introduce like a character like Arno, it's like, and just basically eventually have him like basically trying to be like a villain, like even one who was more misguided than outright villainous, just feels like a lack of imagination, for lack of a better term. Like me, like this is the best you could think to do with this character, to have him turn into a villain for this storyline. Okay. And it's like, and also like you can imagine, like as far as like this whole big extinction entity threat, well, you can probably imagine how things are going to turn out. Like if majority of the like of the conflict in this volume, in this whole storyline, is given over between the fight between Arno and Tony. Oh, and as far as Tony eventually having to Tony's crisis about being an artificial human, well, that spiel I gave earlier about Tony just not believing in himself and not believing in the heart of the cards, well, that turns out to be the core of it. It's like, so overall, it's like, I don't know. It's like the Slott's run just didn't really add a whole lot, um, to Iron Man overall. In fact, it kind of like took away, it's like stuff from it as well, just in the sense that it's like that. Well, Arno's no longer part of it. Like his like Tony's engrams of his parents, it's like have been written out as well. I mean, Tony's got like a nice fancy suit of holographic armor, which I think is cool. But well, we'll see if Christopher Cantwell like actually acknowledges this, like in it's like in his run, like, which is like picking up, which is he's taking over the series after now that Slott is done, and overall it's like I don't know, it's like it's Dan Slott's Iron Man wasn't bad, but in terms of just taking like a familiar Marvel character, looking at his like familiar conventions and like giving us like a new take on it, or just like leapfrogging around the like the kind of like expected what you'd expect from these stories like that were being told. I didn't get that, and so I guess in the end, it's like I'm probably going to just take the 4 volumes of his run that I did buy and just move them onto my shelf that's to be sold over at Book Off, because well, not only do I have access to them like over at like through Marvel Unlimited, but hey, my shelf space is precious, and like any chance I need I have in order to it's like in order to get more of it, well, I've got to take it and just well that like I'm getting rid of these 4 volumes. Well, like that's something I gotta do. It's like it sounds like it's like a bad, like a painful thing I'm doing, but eh, it's not it's not really. It's like, I mean, I've still got access to these issues. So if I ever do feel the urge to read them, which I probably won't, like they're still there. So overall, I think Slott's run is fine. I mean, it's probably something that I would have really enjoyed had I read it like much earlier in my comics reading career. But these days, when I kind of want to see someone have like a really firm long term plan for a series, or just find a way to like show me a take on the character that I haven't seen before, or like like jump around convention like in a way that like that's unexpected for me. Well, it didn't deliver. So there you go. I mean, Dan Slott's Dan Slott's run on Iron Man, not bad, but not as good as it should have been. And there you go. So, John, any thoughts on your end about any of this?
Oh, I'm just. Is there a Iron Man that you would recommend?
Ooh, good question. Well, it's like, I mean, there's always that classic volume from the classic volumes from David Michelini, Demon in a Bottle and Iron Wars, back from the tale from the 70s and 80s. Um, I do definitely have a soft spot for Matt Fraction and Salvador LaRocca's run, mainly because, well, they told some good stories. They also drove the series into a ditch at one point, which I thought, like, by all rights, I should have stopped reading after they got to the Doctor Octopus hands Iron Man his ass story in Unfixable, but then they actually managed to drag the character out of that ditch, which was kind of impressive. And it's something that you really don't see often in comics. So it's like so there's that. And also Kieran Gillen's run, which came after, which was fine. And like also set up, as I mentioned, it set up some of what Slott was doing here, but at the same time wasn't quite on the same level as what I've seen from Gillen doing elsewhere. But it's like, hey, I guess like if you're looking for a really good like self-contained Iron Man story that doesn't involve the series being driven into a ditch, get the first 4 volumes of Salvador Larroca and Matt Fraction's run, which basically tell a nice story of Iron Man, like it's like trying to do the right thing, but also being hounded by Norman Osborn when he was running his not Shield Hammer initiative as well. That was good times.
All right, cool. Well, do you know what you're going to be talking about next time?
It's either going to be like I'll see if I can. I'm going to try and see if I can like put together a roundtable for my thoughts on Chainsaw Man, or I might be talking about Marvel's latest event series, Empire. Probably more like the Empire, but we'll see how that goes.
Yep.
I got some phone calls to make.
Yep. Well, and we're almost to the end of the year.
And by God, we glad to be done with it.
And You know what that means, though, that your best of podcast will be coming up soon, right?
This is true. Yeah, it's like,
Uh,
oh man, it's like got to start thinking about that. Jeez.
yep. Just kind of reminding you there. So, all right, we'll catch you next time on Comic Picks by the Glick.
All right, laters.